Hi, it's John Byler. The first question is, who are you and where do you live? We live here in Harvard, Massachusetts. Married to Lynn. We'll be celebrating 30 years in June, and we have three boys, 18, 22, and 24. What is the product idea you want to make? Well, the good news is I've made the product. I'm 6.5 years into recovery from a traumatic brain injury, and about 4.5 of those years I spent really trying to record what it was I was going through. I was in very, very good hands in my recovery. About the best hands you can have. My doctor is the chairman of physical medicine and rehabilitation at Harvard Medical School. My speech language pathologist and my social worker and my case manager, all three of them are with Spalding Rehabilitation Hospital in Boston, which is consistently in the top 5 every year. Before my accident in 2005, I was an instructional designer for 25 years. I started at a small growing company in Boston in '81, Forum Corporation, working with instructional designers. At the time I was an editor and then a writer and then an instructional designer. So a lot of what I did for Fortune 100 companies was sit in the back of classrooms and record and create instructor notes for how to replicate any given training. And so the instructional designer that was me all my professional life was actually sitting in the back of the room observing my recovery, and I didn't miss a beat. I mean, I spent a lot of time, like most brain injury survivors, just crashing and resting and sleeping and feeling horrible every day. So I've written the book. I published it on TradeSpace with Amazon, and I'm very proud of it. It was 4 years in the writing. On the strength of the core of it, I went 3 for 3 in applying for conference speaking gigs. What's inside, what I'll be presenting is what I'm calling the TBI recovery model, and it has 2 essential aspects: the medical and the rehabilitation. These lists don't exist. I will give you an example. The typical situation is somebody with a brain injury comes into a doctor's office and says, I feel terrible. Okay, well, if it's a lazy doctor, he'll just start prescribing right away. A good doctor and a doctor with experience treating traumatic brain injury will look at this list, which I created the hard way. For example, the endocrinologist. It took 5 years for me to go to Mass General to get the same MRI that everybody deemed clean, to have that looked at, and the endocrinologist said, I don't like the looks of the pituitary gland. So that accounted for one of the reasons I was feeling terrible. So suffice it to say, what's attractive about the TBI recovery model is it's a checklist. There's leaving nothing to chance, you know. So the vague symptom is I feel terrible all the time, you can at least rule out or rule in these things. The recovery, as needed, these boxes should be checked, or NA. Occupational therapist, physical therapist, social worker, speech language pathologist, and vocational rehab counselor. So that's the core of what I'm going to be presenting at these conferences. So I've got the book, I've got the conferences. So the next question is, what is the product you want to make? I think the best way of describing what the product I want to make is with your program is as follows. I've been told just to relax now that the book and the video are done. The video is a video my son made 3.5 years ago, and it's on YouTube. Just go to the channel TBINDD. So ultimately what I want to do that's outside the scope of this program is build a school that houses both the medical and the rehabilitation together. Short of that, where your program comes in is TBI recovery. I won't call it this, but in a box, okay? And what the TBI recovery does is takes into account, it coaches and trains from a survivor point of view, not from I didn't go to medical school, but from kind of street smarts. These would be webinars, these would be coaching and mentoring. And so what I'm learning from my Koenigs is there's the potential, you know, this might not come out for another year. So meanwhile, between now and when the time that is done, we have discrete training events that I'm going to need to make, market, and launch. And I have access to all the experts in the field right here in the Boston area. So that's what I want to do with the program. That's the product idea. Who is your product for? The market? I'll show you the audience real quickly. The audience for this book is the same audience as for that. The primary audience are survivors and their caregivers, okay? The secondary audience is where it kind of gets even more interesting, because they're medical professionals, neurolawyers, therapists, counselors, medical students. Okay, that's casting a wide net, but look at whose professions are touched by traumatic brain injury. So the audiences for this is huge. What is the biggest problem your product or service solves? An erratic and unreliable TBI recovery process. There is no fixed one, and I'm proposing a model to get it right. I'm actually really excited about where I'm at right now and what the future holds. What I'm going to show you next is a video that I made just to kind of illustrate how the world of brain injury is different from a lot of worlds. They say that blood is thicker than water, and in some ways, because we understand each other in shorthand, in some ways brain injury can be thicker than blood. I got to know Kara because she really liked the YouTube video from 3.5 years ago. She had all of her family and friends watch it, and I only know that because we have a mutual friend, and then introduced me to Kara. Kara documented her recovery, her ongoing recovery. I think it's been 2 years now. She had a horrific motorcycle accident, and she unabashedly posted pictures of the various surgeries, the shavings and the scars. So that's what this is, and it's just my connection to Kara, and I hope you enjoy it. Thanks.